You cannot build a healthy relationship on forgiveness alone. You cannot build a strong community on kindness alone. There must be fairness. There must be accountability. There must be adil justice. Justice means that you don't have to keep tolerating behavior that crushes your soul. Justice means you can say, what happened to me was not okay. Justice means not staying in a place or a relationship that harms you in the name of being patient. Yes, Allah loves the patient, but Allah also forbids oppression. And sometimes when you remain silent for too long, you're not just suffering, you're allowing oppression to continue. And Islam never ever encourages that. We often hear Islam is peace. Yes, but peace begins with justice. Islam doesn't want you to carry pain that someone else is causing and call it worship. Please reflect on that. Worship is meant to bring you closer to Allah. It is meant to give your heart peace. It is meant to elevate your soul, not bury it beneath the weight of someone else's bad behavior. But sadly, many people, especially those with soft hearts, have been conditioned to believe that enduring emotional pain quietly and endlessly is somehow a form of ibadah. That being crushed by someone's cruelty is an act of righteousness. That allowing yourself to be walked on, manipulated, disrespected is pleasing to Allah. But that's not Islam. That's not what the Quran teaches. That's not the example of our Prophet, peace be upon him. Islam never asks you to carry the emotional weight of someone else's wrongdoing and pretend it's spiritual strength. Yes, patience is beloved in Islam. Yes, forgiveness is rewarded, but never at the cost of your dignity, your mental well-being, or your sense of self-worth. Islam doesn't want you to suffer in silence while calling it sabr, when in reality, you're just afraid to confront the wrong. Because there is a difference, a very real, very important difference between sabr and silence driven by fear. Sabr is when you hold back your anger for the sake of Allah. Silence is when you choose your battles wisely. But suffering in silence, because you're too afraid to upset someone, too afraid to speak the truth, too afraid of being labeled as difficult or disobedient, that is not sabr. That is fear. That is emotional suppression. That is the consequence of years of being told, stay quiet, be the bigger person, don't cause problems. But Islam is not about being passive. Islam is not about allowing wrong to go unchecked. The Prophet, peace be upon him, spoke up when things were unjust, even when it cost him friendships, status, or comfort. He defended others, and he also defended himself. He didn't remain silent when someone crossed the line. He didn't confuse submission to Allah with submission to abuse. Allah commands us to be balanced in every aspect of life. In our prayers, our work, our emotions, our interactions, our forgiveness, and even in our patience. And thus, we have made you a balanced nation. Surah Al-Baqarah 2, 143. Balance is what Allah loves. Balance is the mark of a believer. And balance means knowing there's a time to be patient and there's a time to speak. A time to forgive and a time to walk away. A time to endure and a time to protect yourself. You are not being un-Islamic for protecting your heart. You are not sinful for saying this is not okay. You are not selfish for stepping back from what is destroying your peace. Because Islam calls you to live with mercy but also with strength. And strength sometimes means saying, I deserve better, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm a servant of Allah who honors the soul He gave me. Justice with mercy, strength with softness, truth with compassion. It is not righteousness to destroy your emotional well-being just to make someone else feel comfortable. It is not a virtue to allow your kindness to become the very thing that breaks you. Sometimes we think we're doing good by staying quiet, by not confronting, by enduring. But ask yourself, if the Prophet, peace be upon him, the most merciful and just man, were in your situation, what would he do? He, peace be upon him, spoke truth even when it hurt. He forgave when hearts were sincere, not when they were manipulative. He distanced himself from those who used religion as a tool to harm others. He confronted hypocrisy. He challenged injustice. He stood up for himself, for the weak, for the oppressed. So if you've been told that walking away is sinful, if you've been made to feel like saying no means you lack iman, if you're carrying guilt because you finally chose peace over people, let me remind you of something. You're not being sinful by saying, I need space. You're not being arrogant by choosing self-respect. You're not being harsh by finally setting limits. You are being wise. And wisdom, hikmah, is a sign of maturity, a sign of faith, a sign that you are no longer reacting out of guilt, but living with purpose. Don't let anyone shame you for honoring your boundaries. Don't let anyone convince you that pleasing people is more important than preserving your soul. Even Allah's messenger, peace be upon him, said, the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, though both are good. Sahih Muslim, strength is not just physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual, it is moral, it is knowing when to stay and when to walk away. So let your heart find rest in this truth. You are not here to be consumed by others. You are here to live with integrity, with peace, with balance. And that begins by embracing the justice Allah commands in your home, in your life, and even within yourself. So to the kind soul listening right now, the one who's always trying, the one who keeps holding on, the one who chooses forgiveness even when it's hard, the one who stays silent not because they agree but because they don't want to hurt others. You've lived your life with sincerity, with effort, with grace. But maybe now you're tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of being taken for granted. Tired of being expected to always be the bigger person. Tired of giving and getting so little in return. And I want you to know this. You are not weak. Your softness is not weakness. It is a strength in a world that has become so harsh. Your patience is not weakness, it's restraint, it's sabr, it's control over the nafs. Your silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's maturity, sometimes it's taqwa, sometimes it's your way of avoiding more damage. But you must also know this. Being strong does not mean tolerating harm. Being patient does not mean accepting abuse. And being good does not mean being used. You are not un-Islamic for having limits. You are not a bad Muslim because you finally said, enough is enough. You're not disobedient because you walked away from a situation that was slowly breaking you. You're not harsh for valuing your peace, your mental health, your spiritual clarity. In fact, setting boundaries is a sign of maturity. Knowing when to let go is a sign of tawakkul. And honoring your soul is a sign of understanding your worth in the sight of Allah. Yes, Islam teaches you to smile at people because a smile can heal someone's day. It can open a heart. It's a sadaqah. It reflects the beauty of your faith. Yes, Islam encourages you to be merciful because Allah is Ar-Rahman. Because our Prophet, peace be upon him, was the embodiment of mercy. Because mercy builds bridges and keeps hearts soft. Yes, Islam wants you to be generous with your wealth, with your time, with your kindness, with your love. But Islam never asks you to do it from a place of guilt. You're not supposed to serve others because you're afraid of disappointing them. You're not supposed to say yes just because you feel pressured. You're not supposed to keep showing up just to avoid being labeled as selfish. Do it for Allah. Do it from a place of sincere intention, not emotional burden. Do it with peace in your heart, not because you feel cornered. And do it from a place of strength, not self-destruction. Because giving too much of yourself while you're breaking inside is not generosity. It's slow, quiet harm to your own soul. And you were never meant to hurt yourself to prove your goodness. Do it with wisdom, not blind kindness. Not everyone deserves full access to your heart. Not everyone who asks should receive. Not everyone who smiles at you is sincere.